Hello and welcome to the Select Board meeting for February 14th, 2023. The entire board is present, town manager, town clerk, various members of the town staff, and public are present. Let's stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. First, we have the approval of our meeting minutes from January 24th, 2023.
I make a motion to approve the minutes as presented.
Any further discussion? All those in favor? There we go. And Mark wasn't there, so. Next, we have our first public comment. Any members of the public speaking on general topics? All right. I will close the first public comment. We have a public hearing for the adult use cultivation facility at 11 Pond Road, Leb City Greeneries. James.
We have received a formal complaint that came in on February 5th regarding concerns with the septic system, and Irish has been working hard to investigate it, to have some findings prepared for the board, and that was a memo that is in the packets for this evening. And at this point, Irish, do you want to come up and fill us in on your findings? I'd probably agree in the.
Hi. So I received a complaint on February 5th, and because it is a complaint about a potentially failing septic system, I dove right in on this one to get it all investigated. So I went out, checked the site myself, and did make some calls to Mr. Como, who is the site evaluator that designed the system. James puts me on the spot like this all the time. So the system itself, part of my concern is the system itself was designed to handle the flow from 5 two-bedroom apartments and 6 employees, but due to the changes in ordinance between the time that the system was designed and the time that the building that the system services, things were changed, they could only have 3 units. So the system's actually overbuilt. So if this overbuilt system had failed, it was obviously going to be much more concerning because that would be indicative of an extreme total failure. And I know that the complaint that we received was concerned about what is referred to as by the site evaluator as processed water from processing or growing marijuana. So that can't be introduced to any sort of septic system without permission from the site evaluator and the DEP. The site evaluator would have to indicate that flow would be handled by the system, and the DEP would have to verify that the testing that's been done on the off-put water falls within a range that is acceptable to be safe for the system. So at this point, there's no processed water going into the system from the home occupation marijuana grow that's happening there now. It's all tanked and hauled off. I verified that on site myself. The new building that this hearing is for, that also has tanks. I verified that. And actually right now there's nothing in it. There's literally, I walked through the entire building, there's literally nothing set up at all. So there's no water going even into the tanks from that particular building. The water sample that I was presented with was an outside water sample. It was processed by Absolute Resource Associates, and the gentleman that processed it was Aaron DeWeese. I called and spoke with him. He said that the test results were actually somewhat on the low side for what you'd expect to see from outdoor water because it was not a well water sample. And, he confirmed that what he saw there is exactly what he'd expect to see from an outside water source. So again, there's nothing going into the system from the marijuana tanks right now. However, because in speaking with Mr. Kumo, who designed the system, there's other reasons that a septic system can fail, obviously, other than than the system being overloaded. One of those things would be water infiltration, and that is a very wet area. All you have to do is drive down the road. You can see that many of the properties are very wet. So because of that, today I went out with Brent Lawson, who is the state site evaluator for the entire state of Maine. He came down here, and we're doing a dye test. So that has been entered into the system. Within 2 weeks, I will know with absolute certainty whether or not there's any sort of leakage from the system. That having been said, Brent did check the site itself. He saw nothing that would indicate that there's any leakage from the system right now. He looked at the actual design of the system and the elevation that it's at, because the parcel itself is a very wet parcel, but the system is elevated. There is a drainage swale along the property, along the roadside of it. So if anything were to come off, even though it's a closed-end system, meaning that the road runs this way, the pipe that runs at the end of the leach field runs parallel to the road, so all the water disperses off to the sides. So if anything were to come out, you typically would see that on the lawn long before you would see it anywhere else. If anything should make its way down there, it would go into that drainage ditch and flow down along the property. That's what I will be checking. I do have the homeowner and the occupants of the apartment building agreeing to check it as well. And I do have the homeowner's agreement or the property owner's agreement that if there is a failed system, he's obviously going to replace it. He doesn't have a choice. So that's the basic overview of it. Trying to see if there was anything else that was of concern in that complaint.
Would you recommend, holding off any approval until after we get the results back?
No, I would not, for two reasons. First being that if there were a known violation, I would definitely say yes and wait until the violation is resolved. This is a complaint. It has not been deemed a violation because there is absolutely no evidence, and quite frankly, based on, I'm certified, I'm trained, but Brent has been doing this as long as I've been alive, so he's a little more knowledgeable, and he does not believe that there is any way that this system should have failed or could have failed, because there was absolutely no evidence of failure while we were there today. So I don't feel justified holding up a business license based on a potential that doesn't appear likely. The other reason being that if there is an issue with the septic, because of the way that the current grow operation is tanked, and that is when that is removed, it's actually pumped out and the water is removed off-site. That's going to be the same situation for this new establishment here. If it's approved and he starts processing growing, he's not processing on-site, it's growing, any off-run water from that grow will be tanked and removed off-site. So really what I have is a complaint in front of me about an apartment building with a failed septic. The only thing it has to do with this license is that it's on the same parcel.
Are they growing marijuana in the apartment building?
No, in an adjacent building.
The new building out back.
They're not growing anything in there right now.
Where the hell's the marijuana being grown then?
There's
it's a big apartment building. It's in that one building somewhere, right?
It's a garage, so to speak.
So the
It's
garage
not but there's nothing, everything is tanked out.
So it's in that garage that we see on the side of the building, right?
Yeah, that's attached to the new building that has absolutely nothing in it is
Right.
offset
The
out
metal
back.
building
yeah.
out back.
Just to
Yeah.
clarify, there's in that garage is the home occupation marijuana, which isn't licensed by the board. It's just approved by a home occupation permit, subject to home occupation standards. And then there's an adult use that's up for the license tonight in the new building that was constructed.
So they didn't have a license yet. They had planning board permitted them, For Outback.
For the new building, correct?
For the new building.
Yep.
What he has going on right now is only licensed through town hall, not through the board.
So what's bringing up the septic anyway? What's causing the people getting stirred up about it?
There was a
Anyone-
complaint. There was a complaint brought to me. So
What
that's.
do you smell it?
We brought up the
Well,
complaint.
you have them come up to the microphone if you
Yeah.
have
Okay.
to.
Do you have any
It's
other
over with.
questions for me before I?
Not at the moment.
No, I think
Not
we're
Irish.
good. Your report is pretty comprehensive. Yes.
I'm Jerry Graybill. I'm at 10 Pond Road across from 11 Pond Road. We brought it up. I've been there 33 years, and the year that they put in the new septic, we've had wet area on my side of the road. It was also brought up by Bill Mordridge, who does septic systems. He lives down the road from me. He's my neighbor. He's the one that also brought it to my attention. Arish did a fine job saying everything she did. The only two things I would mention is, one, is the location of the septic. I don't know, you didn't mention that. It says it's supposed to be 50 feet off the road. It's less than 20 feet.
That's another thing I was going to come back and address. That I have to, as you know, from planning board, be in front of the microphone for that.
That was the one thing. The other thing is this area on my side of the road, it's wet all the time. I can't mow it. And when it snows, it melts all the snow. So there has to be something coming, I feel, under the road causing
So-
this.
I can
Since the you're saying since the septic system has been installed, how long has it been installed for?
Since the 2021, when I brought the complaint to the town then in 2021,
Okay.
and basically nothing was done. Arish has done more in the last 2 weeks than I had done in the last 2 years.
Thank you.
Yeah, if I may.
Yes, please.
I knew I was missing something. So, to address your other issues, Jerry, like I said, I knew I was missing some stuff. Okay, so let's figure out the best way to order this here. So as far as the location, whether or not, okay, there's two pieces to this. First of all, distance is always set by the site evaluators based on from the property line, which unless the property line is currently staked, I have no way of knowing because everybody assumes it's the edge of the roadway. I know, and particularly in my previous municipality, those roadways are often very offset. They get moved as they get repaved, et cetera, et cetera. So the only issue with it being closer to the road would be if we as a town decided that it was too close or that it was in our right-of-way, not even too close. If it was in our right-of-way, that we did not want it in our right-of-way, then we would have the ability to say, no, you need to do something different. Because the entire system is set well behind where the fence is that the property owner owns, we assume that it is definitely on their property, or at least not in an area of right-of-way where the town is going to have issue. It's not someplace that we're going to be plowing, et cetera. So that's
Is it built
essentially...
where the blueprints? Do we have a set of blueprints that shows where it's supposed to be built?
Yeah, I have the
And is
subsurface.
it built where it's supposed to be, to the prints?
It appears to be, yes.
Okay.
But again, as I said, I was not working for the municipality, obviously, at that time, because you guys swore me in, so you know. So I have to assume that they did verify that at the time as far as when the pipes were exposed. What I can tell you is from what we can see today, Brent even gave it his blessing as far as location. So as far as that takes care of that piece. As far as the wetness goes, I know that the Graybills, and I wasn't going to identify them as the people that filed the complaint, but as far as their concern about it undermining the road, I haven't had a chance to speak with Mr. or Mrs. Graybill today, but the roads are made with, 2+ feet of compacted soil. There is absolutely no way, because a leach field is not a pressurized system. It's literally a trickle system. There's no way that there's going to be enough pressure to go across the road to Mr. Graybill's side. And with that drainage ditch that we have alongside the road, it would literally have to basically defy gravity and climb over to go across the road. And it goes against everything that the subsurface site evaluator for the state has ever known for sewage to do. That being said, I did notice that today, when I was out there with Mr. Lawson, the site of the septic the 11 Pond Road site, the yard was dry. But the Graybill site is wet, so I don't know if they're getting additional runoff watershed from the road. I don't know if because the 11 Pond Road parcel sits higher, maybe some of the snow melt is with the icy ground going across. I'm not sure.
Has
It's
the water been
something.
tested on your side of the road? On your side?
Yes.
It
The
is negative?
surface test.
Surface test.
That was a surface test. It was a puddle sample was tested.
And it was fine?
It's groundwater. It was
Right,
a
but
low.
It was fine.
Yeah,
So
it was.
no- the
There was
septic isn't coming
coliform. There was total coliform bacteria and E. coli, but
There's
in
horse
low
there, right?
in low doses.
Isn't there a horse there?
No, not anymore.
It's been going for
But it was there.
5 years.
Okay.
But you find total coliform and E. coli anywhere. You'd be hard pressed, according to Mr. DeWeese, to find a puddle sample or surface water sample that does not have it. You even these bacteria are actually even in our lakes, and that's something that the state monitors for. So they don't even the levels that are there don't even rise to the elevation, according to Mr. DeWeese at the water testing company. They don't even rise to a level that would shut down a pond. So while it's not something you'd want to drink, it's not their drinking water test result. So therefore, it's not nothing that we can do. And he said that those numbers that he saw does not indicate to him that there is a gross contamination happening. But he did recommend that we go ahead and follow through with the dye test just to be 100% certain. And obviously for the Graybills, I want to be 100% certain because nobody likes the thought of somebody else's septic effluent flowing onto their property. So we'll know definitively within the next 10 to 14 days if there is any septic, and Mr. Ayer has agreed that if there is any septic leaking, that we'll put in a new system. He'll get a site evaluator, he'll get Mr. Kumo back out there and get them to design a different system that might work a little better if there is a problem. But right now, there's nothing
To
showing.
reiterate, the septic system is not, while it's still on the same property as the grow facility, it's not part of the grow facility. They're not going to be using it for anything
That's
other than
correct.
bathrooms,
That's correct. And the reality is that, and that's the other reason why I was saying I wouldn't hold up this hearing on this business license for it, is because what we're looking at is no different than, I live right near a convenience store. So it's the equivalent of saying the convenience store license needs to be looked at because my septic might be leaking onto the convenience store. My personal residence has nothing to do with a business that's not feeding into that system, and this business is not feeding into that septic system. So you're basically looking at from my perspective, knowing that once I found out that this was, which was literally the second or third day, I think I went out there after hearing this. As soon as I found out that there was tanks for both the current operation, home occupation, and tanks for this hearing tonight business, it became the same as if somebody complained about any one of you having a septic leak.
Is there a septic system for the building, the metal building,
I
besides the holding tanks?
don't know.
There
I would-
is, yeah.
So it's a
And
septic,
the idea was that we were going to.
Please come to this.
Yeah,
Oh.
we've got to come
Yeah,
up.
sure.
I'm just going to step over here in case you guys want.
Like I say, if you needed to, you could sit at this table because the mics are
I don't
on.
want y'all to get used to me being here.
My name's Jameson Ney of 11 Pond Road. I'm the applicant for the license, and there is a separate system down there. But the idea was that we had to tank everything because when we went for the original hearing for like the land use ordinance, or not the orders, but the land use change, we had to. That was part of it, is that we had to put holding tanks in and then get them tested for. I think it was like tested for like a year. So then the idea was that if it tests back correctly, that we are allowed to use the septic systems after that. But as of right now, the ruling is by the town that we have to get everything tanked and taken off site.
and you haven't been using the building at all.
No, it's a shell. I mean, it's
Just a
been
shell.
I'm not a rich man, so it's taken a long time to kind of get to this stage to get there. So we're
Having been in there, they literally don't even have so much as a single table set up.
yeah, we don't even have lights in there yet.
No, they don't.
It's still
Just in
like
the
a
hallway.
ways away because of all the licensing and whatnot too. So I didn't know how long.
Yeah,
that
yeah,
would
I was
take,
just
but-
curious
Yeah.
about it.
So the roadway that we hear about, that's the private road going into or is that?
No, that's
the
I think we're
The
talking
regular
about Pond
Pond
Road,
Road.
which is
No.
the graduates are on the other side of me on Pond Road. Yeah.
So yeah, I'd need to go out there and actually look at it.
So basically, when you turn onto the road, the apartment building that Mr. Ney, pronouncing that right?
Yeah,
Mr.
yeah.
Ney, sorry, is going to be asking for the license for tonight is on the left. That is 11 Pond Road.
Right.
The Gray Bills live across the street.
across
And-
11 Pond Road itself.
And their
Yes.
septic system comes out in front and then
The septic
disperses
system,
horizontally to the road. So if it was overflowing, it would overflow onto 11 and 13.
yes.
It goes this way, not straight forward.
And I have not received any complaints from 13 that they're seeing anything or smelling anything or having any concerns. And I did try to check with them, but nobody was home when I knocked on the door. So
Okay.
I'd like to clarify one thing to answer your question. According to the plans, the tanks down at that building do go up to the leach field.
they are not allowed to be pumped that way until
But
they.
to answer their question, I'm just saying.
So it's not a septic system by itself?
No, it
For the
goes,
buil-
it
They're
goes
going to
up.
go up to a house septic system or the apartment building. So there's one septic system that's going to take care of both buildings.
Yeah.
But the
But like
tanks, we got to use for a year and have that tested, and if that,
Right.
everything goes copacetic, then we
And
pump it
they're
up.
able to put it into this.
They'd have to go back in front of planning board to get it removed out of the conditions.
Correct.
Okay.
And they would have to go to the DEP because without the DEP, with all due respect to the planning board and the board of selectmen, without the DEP approval, he can't do squat with it. He has to keep it tanked. He cannot remove that. We can't just remove that condition. The DEP has
How big
to
are the
remove
tanks?
that.
1,000 gallons, couple of them.
Really?
Yeah.
And I did check with him on what he's already utilizing and did some calculations. And even if he were to keep the home occupation and this new business and get permission from the DEP to enter the system, based on the calculations from what he has receipts for on what's been pumped already for the last year from his home occupation license, the system could easily handle the flow from both. And Brent double-checked that. Mr. Lawson double-checked that for me today as well. Because, as I said, I want to make sure that we don't play with septic, especially in districts where we've got well water in that area. Because the system was designed with an extra 390 gallons per day, I believe, use that's not being seen, that's something that they will have the room for, if DEP allows it. And I also can clarify, too, the DEP will only allow it, Brent and I discussed this at length, DEP only allows it if they're, basically what it has to come down to is that his water has to test pretty much neutral, the same way that your household water would test. So in the marijuana growing industry, they use fertilizers. And what it ultimately is going to come down to is that what he has tanked out and tested cannot test any higher than like the fertilizer you would be washing down your sink if you put your plant in there to water it. If it comes back any higher than that, DEP will not allow it to be put into that leach field, period.
And it has to be tanked out forever.
Yes, if that's the
What
case,
type of
yes.
fertilizer are you using?
I mean, just like regular plant fertilizers.
What's it, a triple 10?
PNK.
What, you know what it is?
Exactly.
Miracle Grow.
NPK.
So it has phosphorus,
Yep.
which is not good. You shouldn't be using phosphorus.
Okay.
It's bad for the water in general,
Yeah.
any water.
Does anybody else wish to speak on the topic from the public? Please. Please.
Okay, so I'm Jerry's better half. So I'm Allison Graybill. And we learned that Jameson was coming today to get his permit, and so we have some questions and concerns that we just wanted to raise. And really where this is coming from is we just want to make sure that the conditions in the approval have been met, that any land ordinances that pertain to the property have been met, and that things according to the plan have been adhered to. As you've seen in this discussion, you know, this marijuana facility is located among homes, and so probably like many of you, we're just really protective of our home. And so we just want to make sure that everything is done right, and if everything's done right, then we can all figure out how to live together and move on from this. The other piece we wanted to get clarification on is the permit. So when the original approval occurred, the permit was to grow marijuana in the newly constructed barn, which is now constructed. At that point in time, there wasn't any marijuana being grown in the apartment building. So we wanted clarification on what's the scope of this permit. Is the permit pertaining to just growth in the barn, or is it pertaining to the marijuana production in the apartment building as well?
Well, as I understand it, the production that's in the apartment is home use,
It's a home
which is
Home
occupation.
occupation.
which is
Yes.
which is no different than if I wanted to do it in my own home.
Right.
I don't, but if I did, I could do it there. And then the other building is essentially business use, as in large scale production, falls under more regulations, fees, licensing, inspections, things like that, as opposed to the home use, which is much lighter in terms of conditions. He can still do both. Just as if I could do both, if I had a home and I also built another piece of property, a building on my property that was actually like an LLC, I could still do my home production, but it just wouldn't be part of my business.
Right.
So he can
And-
still do both, but they just still fall under the same, the different categories, the different regulations.
Yes.
So
But they would, yeah. But I'm assuming that the permit would only apply to, like the permit tonight, would only apply to the adult use marijuana that's growing in the
Yes.
barn. That the home occupation, to your point, is of smaller scale.
yes,
And so we
is
don't-
approved by town hall.
Yeah.
So it doesn't come before us.
When the building gets growing, are you going to just stop growing it in the house?
Undecided at this point. Not right away. Definitely not right away.
It's
What do you do
Take
with
a
the
while.
stuff you grow in the house?
If you're gonna,
That goes to
you're gonna have to have
yeah,
the
come sit up here.
you're gonna have to have the
Sit next to Irish.
Sure. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
it goes into the medical marijuana market like anyone else who had a medical marijuana grow.
Oh, so you could do that? I thought for your home market, you got to grow it for yourself.
No, I think what you're thinking of is in the adult use market, you're allowed to grow, I think you're allowed to grow like 3 or 6 plants in your
Yeah.
house or something like that. But what I have is a home occupancy grow that's licensed by the town and licensed by the state.
Right.
Yep. So the building down there is for a whole, so if you, right across the street from Pond Road is Kind Farms. This is an easy example for you, how they have the 2 buildings set up. And the one in the back says medical on it, the one in the front says recreational. So I could sell to the one in the back from the garage. The one in the front that says recreational, I couldn't sell to them from the garage. I could only sell to them from, if you guys give me my license and
Yeah.
approve, then I could sell to them that way. That's kind of the easiest way for me to explain it to you, I think. So it's 2 very different worlds that they've kept very separate.
And obviously, the time it's going to take you to start up the adult stuff, is going to be, it's going to take a while.
Sure, yeah. So I'm not just going to shut down my other business. Just, yeah.
Exactly.
Our
Yep.
concern was if the adult growth was to go up to the building, it's not allowed for the town ordinance because it's less than 1,000 feet from Kind Farm. So we-
It is. It's definitely not allowed. It's only that building down there.
That's what we
Yeah.
wanted clarification.
Yep. Absolutely.
That's all.
Yep.
Right.
Okay.
Right. That's our concern, is that one permit gets issued to this address, and then Jameson can grow as much marijuana in the apartment building as he can the new barn.
It would,
And we were told
No.
per James years ago that Jameson can do home occupation in the apartment building, but he cannot do marijuana growth of a larger scale.
Yes.
Correct. I'd be too close to an already
Kind
licensed
Farms.
facility. Yeah.
And it'd be an additional conditional use for that building
Which you couldn't do.
Which you couldn't
because
do because of the 1,000 feet.
1,000
and the cap.
And the-
Yeah, yeah,
That's what we want a clarification.
yeah.
Anything
Okay.
else?
Yes,
We got-
go ahead.
We got a couple more things. Like Allison said, we're just interested on making sure that everything that was on their plans and that was in the conditions of approval and per town ordinances are met. And a couple things we want to point out. This was pointed out 2 other times. The lights on the building do not conform to the code, do not conform to the drawings as down lights. Mr. Ayer's been told this at the last time he was at the planning board for approval for removal of the security fence, and he said he would take care of it, but he did not.
What lights would those be?
The lights on the side of the building.
On the
New
on
building.
the new building?
It says right here, and
I
it's
hadn't-
also in the findings of fact from when this was approved, there was a concern that all the lights at Kind Farms are all down lights.
Are they the light on the long side or the short side, or both?
Both.
Both. Okay.
This is the first I'm hearing of it, but I will look into
Same, me
that
too.
for
Right.
it as well.
The other thing on the conditions of approval was that they were supposed to provide proof of purchase and for negative pressure and carbon filtration to the town. Has that been done? It's right on the conditions of approval.
We're not approved yet, so.
It doesn't matter. You have to provide. I'm also on the planning board, so I just want to make sure. There was a concern during the initial setup before the planning board by the fire chief that the entrance road off of Pond Road did not conform to the 20-foot width. And since then, the town's ordinances has changed to 24 feet. I don't know if they got a hold to the 24 feet, but has the fire chief been down and driven that road and the access around the building? Because I know at times, per Jameson's home occupation, there's numerous vehicles out back, and there might not be the appropriate width at all times for an emergency vehicle to get down to the building. I feel the fire chief should come out and inspect and check into that. We talked about the lighting. Mr. Ayer came before the board to get the security fence that was voted on and approved for the plans. And at the time, the town told us it was not required to have a security fence around the property, so that was voted out, but nobody voted out the fact that they have to have a security gate leading down to that building, and that is not installed. Trash receptacles, right on the plan, it says there will be a concrete pad and a fence put around their trash receptacle area. It's also a town ordinance, and the 2 at 11 Pond Road don't have the fence around it currently, nor does the trash receptacles at Kind Farm. If we're going to have a town ordinance that says they need to be fenced, then they need to be fenced, I would think. So like Allison said, we're not here to stop the process. We know it's going to happen most likely. We just want to make sure everything's conformed to before things move forward. And all of our concerns are addressed, not only from myself and Allison, but the other neighbors. Marlene.
What's going in the parcel behind Kind Farms in that field?
What's that?
What's going in that parcel beside Kind Farms? It's all surveyed out. You don't know yet?
I was told by Dave Webster, I don't know if you know him,
Yep.
but I was told that they're putting a gas station in there. I don't see how they can put a gas station in there.
Why? Has it come before you guys yet anyway?
Nope.
David?
That was just speculation on his part due to people talking. I have no idea.
Yep, okay, thank you.
That's all we have. Thank you.
Thank you.
So we just heard a bunch of, things from the planning board finding of facts of items that either are questionable or haven't been met. And how do you respond to those? I don't know. I wasn't there for the planning, the as far as the negative pressure, you're not operating, but if it says that you need to pass that in order to have the licensing, then how do we go about that?
Can't do it.
Is that-
Can't do it, Tom, I wouldn't think, until we have all that paperwork, right? The pressure test done and the,
With all due respect, although one of the municipalities I served prior to this did have marijuana, all of the facilities were already developed and built. So I have to, with the board's permission, ask Mr. Nay, is that something you can do before the rest
What's
of the
that?
systems are put in, the negative pressure test and such? I don't know.
Well,
how
really,
this
all it
stuff
is
goes.
is moving more air. So, like, we're not really going to be bringing in any air in from the outside because we're going to be using mini splits for our heating and cooling. So basically, what we're going to do is be putting a vent, and all of our rooms, anything with plants in it, is going to have what's called a carbon filter. So it scrubs the air inside. So basically, what you're doing is you're removing all of that odor that the marijuana produces from inside that controlled, this little box room that we have, right? So you're removing. There's specs on how to do this too, obviously, from professional companies. So you buy the right size to remove all the odor, and then each room is going to have an individual exhaust system to go with your negative air pressure system, which I think is kind of bogus anyway, because it's now bringing. I have a closed system, right, and you want me to move air outside and tell me make it not stink, which is fine. We can do that, but it's kind of like redundant.
so you're not gonna move any air outside?
No, I have to make it a negative air system.
No.
Like I absolutely have
Gotcha.
to. Yeah.
Yep.
Yep. That was part of the planning board last time. So, yep, that was
So-
well within our plans.
So is that something that has to...
I'm not looking to stink up the neighborhood.
No, but
type
is
of deal.
that testing something that has to be done?
I don't know. Is
once
that there
you
was
are
a
set up?
is it a test per se?
Well, I'm reading.
Read
the
it. I'd like to
finding-
hear the exact words.
Conditionals of approval number 4. It just says that the applicant shall submit proof of purchase of carbon filtration in the equipment required to produce a negative pressure environment.
Okay.
So it sounds like you need to have the equipment there.
Ready to go.
Said if the odor violation is determined by the code enforcement officer, they shall have 5 days to resolve it. And then it talks about if the well water is contaminated by nitrates or other byproducts as a result of production beyond safe concentrations, the cost to remediate the nitrates shall be the applicant's expense. Building height shall be restricted to 1 story. Septic pipe easement shall be moved before the future expansion will be granted a building permit. So,
Based on these, the findings of facts, the only thing that is limiting in terms of approval is proof of purchase. Have you purchased those things?
Nope.
Okay.
I will tomorrow. I mean, it's that easy. I just wasn't trying
Well,
to
the
spend a
lights
ton of
is
money
the
because I
lights
knew
is
that there was a
is
huge
code-
holdup with
is
this
a code
thing.
violation, not a permit, a licensing violation. Essentially, the lights on the building are supposed to be, they're supposed to like illuminate all sides, but also be shielded so they're not shooting out into the
So they're
neighborhood.
supposed to point.
Yeah, they're supposed to point downward and have like a cover on them so they're not,
So they're not
you know,
coming
into
out.
other people's windows and stuff like that.
Unfortunately, this is the first I've heard about that, or I would have made sure that was resolved before.
And I'll
tonight, so I
speak with Dave
apologize.
tonight when I leave here. And
In terms of the road width, I'm not sure what to do with that.
that was designed with all of that in mind, with
Yeah.
with the fire truck being able to turn around behind there. So that was designed by Mike Seaver was the
change
engineer.
requirements after.
And in terms of the security gate, I'm not sure. Is that in the?
In the plan, it needs to be in there.
Okay.
And you know, is, the other code issue, you know, is the dumpster, you know, on the pad and screened. Is, you know, when Mark and I first came on board many years ago, that was a real issue in town. We had quite a go around with a lot of businesses about that. So,
But since it's not in operation, there's no dumpster there to sit on a
was gonna
pad
say
or
there
be
was
screened,
no-
right? So.
Not for this current, not for this.
Yeah.
No.
So to me, that's less detrimental. I mean, that's an operations issue once you're operating. If you're operating with a dumpster sitting on, a pile of dirt in front of the building on the road, then that's an issue that,
Sure.
again, code will need to deal with and you're going to have to fix. Hopefully you'd
I'm
fix
not
it
gonna do
before
that.
going into operation. But-
Hearing that word code a lot today.
Check Kane Farms though.
Irish, what are you hearing?
I will.
Yeah.
But,
Somebody
The
want to
pump
throw me a
test
pen
yet?
so
You
I
drilled the
can
well yet?
write a note?
I'm sorry, say that again?
There's a well been drilled?
Yeah.
The town of South Berwick's done their testing on it?
I'm assuming. I mean, I don't.
yes.
They should be, because it
This
says
is
it's
Jerry
included
Graybill. I can speak to that. They did do the pump test.
to
I
town
checked with
did.
South Berwick. They did the 5-day pump down.
Yeah.
The only thing they did not do was notify the abutters and check the abutters' wells like they should have done.
So they'll have to come back and do it.
Don't know.
Oh,
It was in the original
signed off on it.
conditions for approval, and somehow it did not get in the final. They took out those few words. I have the ones previous to
That's
that
fine.
here, which
Well,
had it all
that's
in.
the final
You're
one
not on,
anyway,
you're not on
correct?
South Berwick water up there, right? It stops at Junction Road, right?
It stops at Junction Road.
water
But
doesn't
my
come-
property's half Berwick, half South
Right,
Berwick.
right.
Yeah. But the test was done, to answer your, and I did check with South Berwick Water District, and it was done correctly. It's just they didn't notify the abutters.
Okay.
So, in terms of deficiencies, I would say the only two that directly go against approval is the proof of purchase of the air handling system and the security gate, which, if it's on the plans, it needs to be met before approval can be given. The other parts are more operational and code-based than licensure-based. If they were situations where we end up licensing you and those situations, become situations that you're not fixing or the complaints are coming in about them, then that'll hinder any future approvals.
Sure,
because
sure.
those complaints will be held against you.
Makes sense.
I'm still a little confused
yes.
about one thing.
Go ahead.
And I apologize, this marijuana thing is just, the getting them started is so new to me, so.
It is to us also.
Okay, so we're all stumbling through this together, perfect. So I understand that the condition of approval is that he needs to show proof that he's purchased the air scrubbing
Yeah.
technology.
Department, yeah.
But I'm a little concerned from the code perspective as a person who has to handle the odor complaints, because if I'm not mistaken, you said that the size has to be designed by a.
It's by cubic feet is how they determine
Okay,
it.
so you'll be able to be sure that you're purchasing the right size. I just want to
Yep.
make sure that we're preventing any
sure.
further complaints rather than forcing you to purchase something that's not going to size right.
Yep.
Okay, so that's all I
Same
was.
thing with the dumpster enclosures, they gotta be done. The fencing around the dumpsters.
Well, he doesn't have a dumpster yet, so.
At the house he does, right? So that
So
has to
the
be.
house
That has
had a.
nothing to do with this.
Right.
Yeah, that has nothing to do with
that could be a
this.
No, but
separate.
it's still gonna be.
But I will-
complaint.
That could be a separate
Same
thing
with
that she
Kind
needs to go
Farms.
take a look at.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm going to take a
That's
look at
nothing to
that,
do
but
with
that
that.
doesn't pertain to this.
Irish, more work for you. Sorry.
I'm going away now.
So, are those deficiencies something that you feel like you can fix in the next 14 days?
Yep.
Okay. Then I would make the motion that we table the approval of this license until our next meeting, in which case we can see if the proof of purchase and the security gate have been taken care of and get you approved.
Cool.
That is my motion.
I'll second that motion.
Any further discussion? All those in favor? All right. We'll discuss this in 2 weeks. See you then.
In 2 weeks.
I have to come back in 2 weeks, too.
Sorry, Irish.
We're fun. You're having a good time. I promise you.
It's all right.
All right.
I want to be at home.
Irish.
Me too.
Irish, can you just check the lights too?
Yeah.
Can you check the lights too?
Yeah.
Or for the next
We
meeting,
have
too?
no reports
Thank you.
of committees. You want to report?
I can do it that
Thank
way.
you, guys.
I don't know, am I on the agenda?
No.
What are you here for?
Report of committee.
Report of-
Then come give us a report of your committee. We love a good report.
I don't know, it's a good one. Just kidding, it's a good one. I brought copies too.
Thank you.
Basically,
Even if he's got a plan to fix it, like
you might all want you have it in front of you to read along.
Thank you.
So I'm here to update you and I'm just going to kind of go through this, and I won't read everything, but I wanted to update you based on a couple conversations we've had. I'm Jeremy Caston, by the way, from Envision Berwick. The last time I think I was in front of the select board, we talked about the branding rollout plan and where we were with that strategy. And I believe at the time, Noah, you said, what do we do to get the Berwick Quarterly back up, which had been Tom's question at the library. Well, that's what I'm here in part to talk about. We do have a plan that we've been working on, and I would like to present it to you. It's a multi-step plan, but it's actually elegant and simple. So here we go. The challenge we've been dealing with is the problems with the community feeling uninformed, dwindling participation, lack of access to information, negativity that we've all faced at times, inconsistent, confusing, dense, jargony messaging. So it was clear we needed to do something. We put together the Berwick Quarterly that was intended to reach the entire town, updates from town departments, local businesses. We included special features, had a comprehensive seasonal calendar, including election information, specifics, and community engagement pieces. It was very successful. We had, across the board, positive reaction. It was, however, a very heavy lift for the volunteers in Envision Berwick because we're not journalists and we're volunteers. So we also had problems, I should say, with the every door direct mail situation. Is it really, in theory, is a great idea to deliver something to people's mailboxes for people who aren't necessarily on Facebook or whatever, but it was not reliable, and that was a problem. So here's what we've come up with. The Berwick Bi-Monthly. It's a twice-monthly email blast that will feature a calendar of upcoming events, relevant and timely information to the community, and a helpful, clear, easy-to-navigate, visually compelling way that's positive. The bi-monthly will be reliable, comprehensive, positive source with the most up-to-date information from each of Berwick's town departments. This will also include other curated items of interest, happenings in town, major school events, craft fairs, events at local businesses, etc. The goal is to move from this siloed approach from gathering information from many different places on the town's website, social media, other channels, to this central hub that's easy to find and parse, ultimately resulting in a more informed community. So beyond, let me just say now, beyond just placing this in an email blast and on the website and putting it out through social media, this will also be posted in very, what's the word I'm looking for? Like large printed, bold pieces at town hall, at the library, at the post office, so that it's accessible. We can look at doing what the snippets had done and having a stack, but I think in the interest of saving paper, because I always would see the stack of Berwick snippets that people weren't taking, having a bold printout that's easy to read in at a bulletin board sensibility is the way to go with this. So yeah. Did I write that? Yeah. Posted prominently, etc. Last month, Envision Berwick, yes.
A question regarding that.
Of course.
I like the idea because a lot of people get email, get social media. Is there any way we can also address maybe the older population that doesn't do that? I know you said the library, town hall. I know that we have a couple of senior places that maybe we could make sure that we're including the senior centers or even the one on Pine Hill, the mobile home up there. I know the mail area where they collect stuff. I don't think they have a community center, but it's covered over and post something. Yeah.
Is it a common room or is it a?
No, where all the mailboxes are. When you first pull in and go left.
Like when you go to a park and there's one of those things with the park map and such.
Yeah.
Like a kiosk or something.
Yeah, with the mail. I'm just saying is that.
Absolutely.
They go, you see them walk to get their mail because that's their exercise. So
yeah,
those places to be included. I know it's probably 3, maybe 4 extra stops, but they don't get the communication in the same way.
For sure. No, look, that is the goal. And any idea that helps us to reach that population that feels cut off, I think that's exactly what we're trying to do. We want to make sure that we're amortizing information to everybody, and that is exactly what we're trying to, the need we're trying to fulfill there's a great idea, and any other ideas that, if we had like there's Pinnacle in North Berwick. If we had a nursing home here that's great. We should be doing that, and that's exactly where we need to be looking is how to reach people that aren't easy to reach on Facebook. Also, we don't own Facebook. They can take all that down tomorrow. That's the beauty of putting it on our own website. That's ours. And I think it's good to put things there, but it's also important to remember it's not ours. And thinking in those terms, I think, is important moving into the future, so that we don't just keep blasting out on, there's 5, 8 different Berwick titled pages on Facebook.
Yeah,
trying to find information can be maddening. It's good to have one place where people know to go. Make it smooth and easy. So absolutely.
It's also confusing with Berwick, Pennsylvania.
Right, yes, there's that too. I joined the...
I remember seeing years ago, there was Berwick, there's a Berwick pizza place for sale. You can buy it and start. I'm like, there is? Berwick, Pennsylvania.
I joined the wrong historical society when I moved here. I sent them a check, and then I realized, I was like, no, wait. So last month, Envision Berwick voted to launch this project, and we have funded it through June of 2023. Starting in fiscal year 2024, funding will be fully taken over the town, is my understanding. An Envision Berwick volunteer who's been doing all of our social media posts for the last several years, Marie Miller, is creating and running the Berwick Bi-Monthly. I don't need to get into, you have it in front of you, there's a breakdown of what the role and responsibility is, but it covers everything, and it will ensure that what we're delivering is thorough, is easy to read, is pleasant, and connects all these siloed parts of our town that I think it's critical to start thinking about how to get this information to people in a way that cuts out the difficulty. So that's the Berwick Bi-Monthly. That's what we're working on. You'll start to see posts asking you to join. Send your email address. We're now collecting email addresses so that we can include those in the blast. So we'll start getting the word out through BCM and all of our channels. So I'm very excited about this, and I hope you guys are too. I think it's a great way to address a problem that we have continued to try to figure out how to solve.
So right now you're starting to collect email addresses to build the database.
Yes.
So has that already started, or is that
I think Marie and I had a bunch of back and forth today about the actual URL, and I know she was in touch with James about the email list that Envision Berwick had already been capturing in the past.
Can you come back in a month and let us know, give us an update, how many people have signed up, what the response has been?
Yes.
Just so we can get a view on how this is going. If we're going to fund it into the next year, we just want to make sure we're getting good information.
Yes. I want to be clear. We have not set a launch date. We were looking at spring. We want to give her some time to get that in front of people and to gather those.
Even if you're like, we got, if you come up and we have 10 signups, that's one thing. If you come forward and you're like, we have 200 signups, it's
sure.
It gives us a better gauge of how this process is going to go forward.
Absolutely. I do want to say that I think, yes, I think one of the most important things in the digital realm is to capture, there's all these ways to capture statistical information. How many people, how much viewership, and also how long they're lingering at these pages. Those statistics are available, I'm sure, for our website now. I think it would be good, and I'll talk to James and Marie about this now, to gather that now so that we can then compare it in, say, 3 months, 6 months, because sometimes this stuff takes a little while to it takes time to get people used to it. But I think that having this moment to compare it to will be very important. So
we have
good idea.
Analytics.
Yep.
And the $34,000, that's in our budget, or is it going to be
more? Well, there's so what.
Let me launch into this next part, and then let's let's address that, because I think what James is about to say is that it's not just for this. So here's the next part. Thus far, signs, branding, communication. These have all been things that Envision Berwick has taken on. So I'm just going to start by talking about branding, which is what I was in front of you all talking about most recently. The 2018 article in Forbes titled "Branding is the New Economic Development" states, "Community branding has become the new economic development, more significant than the value of financial incentives. Giving your city, town, or community a brand that represents its value and beliefs will ultimately attract others to it. Community branding defines neighborhoods, revitalizes districts, packs restaurants, and creates an economic buzz. Economic development experts, developers, and business owners who get that are smartly investing in defining and nurturing district and community brands." The reason I want to lead with that is just to point out again, we're not doing something off the wall. This is not, we're not going off in some wackadoo direction. This is like by the book, how to make a town successful and drive an economy. So we've been working with James to shift our digital communications, branding, and signage from Envision Berwick's budget to a separate line item in the town's budget. We in Envision Berwick feel that we have necessarily grown this critical piece, fostered it, and proved its value and necessity. In our recent brand rollout progress report that I was here with Elise presenting, we proposed a plan through 2025 to get much of the town's signage and rebranding in place. We strongly believe that handing the reins to the town for funding this from now on is the right path forward. James will be proposing a warrant article to do exactly that. In this way,
so he's doing the communication, branding, splitting off from Envision Berwick. We have some of the budget that was proposed, and we'll get into that more. I think they're asking for a little bit more than that was budget, but I think we'll be able to make it. I mean, that's part of the process, and this needs to get kicked off next fiscal year. Yes, we can fund it this fiscal year. So they'll be back on the 28th to go over both.
yes. So just to be clear, we want to continue to fund and move new projects forward, as well as revitalizing some of our older projects, including Berwick for a Lifetime, which has now really gotten some legs, the Dig a Hole Once Committee, which is also starting to do some really pretty cool stuff. Still working to put a new Economic Development Committee on its feet. Community Resilience Committee just started, and really pushing on the Arts Association. I'm hoping to see something in the next 6 months on that. Envision Berwick will continue to advise on and push forward Berwick's brand and strategy. This includes all future town signs, the rebranding of all departments as outlined in the presentation, and the communications from this Berwick bi-monthly and the functionality of these digital assets. The labor on these projects will be subcontracted through the town as much of it is now. And then the budget that we've looked at, from that branding presentation and including the bi-monthly built into it. So that's it's taken about a year to sort of step back from the quarterly and figure out how to make it functional moving forward. And this has really been a process. But I believe this is the right way forward. And like with the quarterly, it didn't work. But we didn't keep going and spending money. And, if we need to be agile. You can't just have an idea and say, this is it, this is the idea, we're going with it. You have to say, okay, we're going to change it, we're going to make adjustments, and we're going to figure out how to make it better for people. And I think this is that for today. Any questions?
I'll just say, I think part of the value proposition I brought up is right now, mostly it's Terry and Patty's helping, and we do calendar updates, so Marie can help with distributing some of that work to do some of the calendar update stuff. Some of the front page announcements, social media posts. So to help take I think emergency communications, if there's a way to kind of fit it in, just as a way to meet as many needs.
Well, that's the value proposition to me. Is like, obviously we want people to be informed about everything going on in town and things like that, but also to have a more direct access line for, there's an emergency going on, here are your options. You don't have to go to Facebook or wherever to find it. You can, just, in your email, on your phone, whatever, there's a warming station or whatever the situation might be. To me, that's a major value of the situation, of it as well, not just for the updates to the, bi-weekly, but when there's an emergency, we have a further way to communicate with the town.
Well, I will say that I think that at the moment, if there were an emergency, I wouldn't know where to look. I wouldn't necessarily go to the website. I might go to the Berwick page. I might go to one of the Berwick gossip pages. I might go to Envision Berwick on Facebook. And so having a place where everyone knows from now on, our website is updated regularly, and this is the place you go for the updated current information, whether it's the splash page where you land, or it's the calendar page, or whatever that is, starting to focus that stuff and hone it beyond kind of boilerplate website stuff and think about a strategy for communication, I think is, it's critical. Agreed.
And also make sure that the access to the page is shared with more than one person in the town, so that if we lose one person, we don't lose access to the page.
Yep.
Yeah, I've seen that happen before, where it's just like this one person runs everything, and then they get hit by a bus or something, and all of a sudden now you have to go through legal hoops to GoDaddy or wherever to try to find and get access to the page the town owns. And
Absolutely.
So
I got two things to note.
Sure.
And again, I love having a community calendar, and yes, there's multiple places to go and look, and I could tell you, looking at the town website, you click on it and you're like, okay, where else do I go to try to find any information? We still have to find a way to address communicating to the seniors. So, you could say, okay, there's an emergency, I can go here, it's going to land there. That's not going to help our senior population. That's the concern. We put everything out on Facebook, people still don't know.
Right.
We put everything out in the town, but people still don't know. So that's the one thing that's going to have to be communicated. That's going to be the one hoop that Envision's going to have to try to work through, just because while it helps me and my family and my friends, and this can be a great spot for me, it's still missing 40% of the town. The other point of it is the two major things that don't get communicated in town are the local happenings and the school. And as much as MSAT 60 sends stuff out in emails, as much as they have stuff, you can see all the parents always trying to figure out what's going on. I'm sure Noah can figure it out. It's on there. I think there's got to be something in there that if we're going to go with a community calendar, there's going to have to be that partnership with MSAT 60 to try to figure out what's going on in the schools and dropping that in there. Because
that's a really good point.
That's what the residents are going to want. I think that's what a lot of the parents are going to be looking for. And if you can find a way to bridge that, I think you're going to solve a lot of problems, at least with the parents in town. And now, again, that might be hoops that you got to try to, I don't know how to solve that, but I think that's going to see a lot of the
school now
communication
has a
issues.
dedicated
Page, too. And if there's a way to layer the platform, whatever that might be. Yeah, but I
they
think
don't want that. They just don't, all of this is growing pains. And,
no, absolutely. That's just my two points of
are going
trying
to always be behind the curve in this stuff by necessity. It's not like we're not, the Coca-Cola Corporation that's going to be good at this and agile at this.
Yep.
But it's why it's important for us to have these conversations and to think about it and not treat it like it's frivolous, because it's not. It's critical. And both of those are good points. I know for me, with the school system, I have the same experience, but I also know that that's not the experience they want me to have.
Correct.
That it's just a matter of making those critical connections.
Correct. So I think if you can hit those two things, that's going to be huge wins.
Yep.
Yeah, the elderly population, you can put all you want. I can tell you from my own family, when 40% of this town is who want to be involved in the town. They've been here their whole life. That's the community that they want, and they're constantly, what's going on?
Yeah.
And other than sitting and listening to this police scanner all day, you try to put them on Facebook on a tablet, and it goes out the window. So reaching that population, if you want to, collectively connect, you got to do the school and the elderly. You got to. That's your bookends.
I think this, to be honest, knowing that the school now has somebody in communication and it's going to help a lot.
Yes, I agree.
This is a harder nut to crack with the senior population, but I think it's also the most important, we've spent a lot of time talking about this, and I think we just need to keep trying things. We're not going to land on a brilliant idea that nobody, suddenly we think of how to do this. We just have to keep trying and meeting with successes and failures until we have more successes than failures. And I think, to your idea of making sure that every place where seniors are housed or are living or, that we're communicating with them, I think Berwick for a Lifetime can also be a great resource for this. And I certainly will lean on that group to help us conceive of more ideas for communication, because it is important.
Yeah.
Emergency or otherwise. Great. Anybody else? Anything else?
No, it's like,
Thank you, Jeremy.
Thank you
thanks,
all.
Jeremy.
Thank you.
See you in about a month, maybe.
Yeah.
Well, we'll see you on the 28th.
End of this month,
Yes.
2 weeks.
Yeah, in 2 weeks.
He'll be back 2 weeks.
Yeah, that's true. So, report from committees, department reports. We have no appointments, presentations of guests.
See you later, Jeremy.
Thanks, Jeremy.
Good night.
Unfinished business, the proposed amendment to the personnel policy. Yeah, that's you.
All right, so I watched the last two board meetings so that I wouldn't come in here blind and not know what was going on.
Watch them on video on demand or watch them at the time?
On demand.
Okay.
So I know 2 meetings ago when, I'm really not sure where the confusion came in, because 2 meetings ago, James left on the note that he was bringing back the costs to the town. And then last meeting, there was a lot of confusion, and it seemed like nobody knew that there was going to be a cost to the town. But the only reason I brought this up to ask James to bring it forward sooner, because he already was going to bring it forward when he brought personnel policy changes forward sometime later, was because when I went to report the December main PERS, there was an issue, and I called Trio and I opened a ticket with them, called them, spoke with them. They fixed the issue, helped me fix the issue for the December report. And in the course of conversation, I said, well, we just signed the union contract with the retiree hires at 2.5%, but we still have the non-union employees for the police at 5%. And and the person I was talking to on the phone with Trio stated that Trio wasn't going to be able to handle 2 different percentages for one retiree hire code. I asked James at that time to bring it forward sooner, and then I entered everyone's percentages manually and ran the January report and uploaded it. We have to modify the text formatted file every month, and uploaded it to main PERS, and it worked fine as far as I know.
How many
So-
people do we have under the
We have
the main rehire, main PERS rehire?
we have 6. Wait a minute. We have 6 retiree hires. We have 1 retiree hire that is grandfathered at the town paying the 5% because he retired from somewhere else and we hired him. He was our first retiree hire. Then we had, I think, 4 retiree hires within the department, and 4 of them being union, 2 not union, or no, I guess 3 union retiree hires.
There's one guy that's
There's-
grandfathered to the 5. There's another guy that came from Sanford.
Yeah, do you want to come to the
Yeah.
microphone and tell us?
Yeah, that's all right, Cap.
You want to share?
Yes, please.
There's one guy that's grandfathered in, like you said. There's another guy that came from Sanford, and he, on this new union contract, just got the 2.5, with 2 that retire, 2 sergeants retired and rehired just recently, within the last 6 months.
So those are the ones that for the union side, correct?
Correct.
And then we have you and the chief,
Correct.
the non-union that are at the 5%. that you pay,
Correct.
right?
Okay.
And so,
And I brought it to James's attention because I learned of it.
Yeah.
I wasn't aware of it. I just asked if we would get the same benefit that the other guys got.
I have no problem with that. My problem is the timing of it coming up just as we're starting the budget process. And, I have, if we're doing it for the union employees, we should make it the same for the non-union employees.
But you have to have a policy to back that up. You can't just,
Right, but
Handwrite it
my issue was coming at the time is if we start this right now, is it basically gives two people a raise before we do the budget. Because we will be picking up the costs that they are now carrying. So that's the only issue I've had with it. Is I have no problem doing it through the regular budget process. I'm glad to hear that Trio seems to be able to handle it now. So that's not an issue.
well,
You would normally be paying 14.7% for each one of these employees that have done the rehire.
Right,
Right.
but the trio hasn't fixed the problem. You're just manually
You
overriding it.
just override it.
Right, so they didn't fix it.
No,
No.
but it ran. So.
Now, can I just ask one thing, James? This policy and the new budget puts it in, correct? Puts the 2.5% in.
I would be proposed as part of the overall cost of living, wages, and the way that it's calculated, that would be that is my proposal coming in, that it would be included as part of their essentially cost of living adjustment. So, and then what we would need to do pretty much simultaneously, if that budget was approved and we have enough time, it gets sent to the voters next month and doesn't arrive until whatever, and then we could pretty much make the personnel policy amendment effective.
With the passage of
the
the budget.
Okay.
And it would just be.
Did you say a vote in a month? What?
Well, we would
If we
approve
pass the budget.
on the way to the warrant.
Okay.
Is what I meant.
So this wouldn't become effective until after the budget is passed.
Until the new fiscal year on July 1st.
Yeah, that's what we wanted to consider.
Well, as it was proposed to us previously, it would be taken effect as soon as we voted to change
Right,
the policy.
that's what I'm
No, so it
confused,
would've-
because you just
I think
said
if
with
we
the
vote
new
tonight,
budget,
it
and
would
then
take
you just
effect
said,
I guess the concern is the money already there in that budget?
The money.
If they were.
I think the money. I think the money's there, and I would. So I don't have one suggestion. I guess that would be totally up to the board if you wanted to approve it tonight and then include that in the budget considerations going forward, or wait until the police budget. I think it's in a couple weeks next week. Do it that way. I haven't really put that much thought into the when, but yeah, it does require a amendment to the personnel policy first.
to allow it to occur.
Right.
So approval of the policy wouldn't necessarily be approved effective tonight. It could be effective July 1, 2023.
We could just say, I move to approve the policy and make it effective for July 1st.
With the passage of the budget.
Yes, with the passage of the budget.
Well,
Assuming the budget gets passed by the town, which usually does.
As I said, is if we're doing this for the union employees, we should be doing it for the non-union employees too.
I
I agree.
agree.
I think it should be.
Right,
And that
either
was my
way.
only concern last week was, what are we doing with
Yeah,
Right.
absolutely.
was it
Right.
fair across the
It's-
board?
it's not
that
a
was
matter
the
of
only
whether we
information I
should-
wanted to know.
Right, it's not a matter, I think it's fair to say that we, general
Yeah.
consensus, we want to approve it, is
Yeah.
how do we make the steps to do it
I mean,
kosher-wise without it just being, handwritten in and make it sound like, oh, we're only doing it for 2 people. No, we're doing it for anyone that qualifies within the policy now and moving forward 5 or 10 or 15 years. That's all I'm saying, is we just need to make sure that we do it right. Yeah.
Last week when I watched too, the only thing I got out of it was you guys had said you'd thought that Tim and I were getting something different or more, and we really weren't. We were getting the same raise that the union did. In January 1st, they got the 2.5%, so we're not getting something extra, which is what I interpreted when I watched your meeting last week. It's the same.
But it wasn't budgeted last year. Their contract.
I don't know about that. It was
So-
not budgeted. We did ask for it last year when we talked to James, but
But it wasn't put into that budget for going now. So to approve it now, the money wasn't previously budgeted for it, where the ones in the union, it came under the contract negotiations. So there was
correct.
some.
But that's the same budget that you gave.
But you
for
had
both.
money in the budget knowing that contract negotiations were going to be coming up within that fiscal year.
Didn't we have one retiree hired in this fiscal year?
Mhm.
The last one, right?
Yeah.
So there's 14.7% in there for him.
Correct.
Yeah. I thought so.
Okay.
Yeah, there's money in the budget.
Okay, so there's already money
So there's money
in the budget.
currently in the budget. If we were to approve it, that would cover this for
Right.
the rest of this fiscal year.
Yeah.
Yeah, so let's do it.
Okay, then
Okay.
as long as that's there.
As long as we have a policy, so that the policy doesn't.
Correct.
And I just don't want it to apply to two people. I want it to apply to any non-union employee.
You know, apply to every department.
Everybody.
That would
Right,
be-
any non-union employee
Bargain,
that it's
bargain, and
applicable to.
non-bargaining.
Okay.
Okay.
I can, it's actually right here, the amendments right in tab 10, what I would,
Yeah, it's right
Yeah,
here.
no, I got it from you. So.
And this is a budget this is a proposed amendment to, I'm going to make a motion to approve the proposed amendment to retire, rehire, section 3.9, the retired main PERS rehire. Do I need to read the whole thing, or can that be it? And I want to make it effective. If we're going to do that and the money is in the budget, I would like to make it effective the same day that it became effective for the union. That means there's
So you
going to be
can
some
retro it.
retroactive. Is that going to be an issue before I complete?
If it's retroactive,
If we retroactive it back to January 1st,
The same day that it was effective for the union.
shouldn't be an issue.
Well,
as long as the money's there.
they already paid, let me think about it.
Correct, so you should be able to get
They've
that
already
adjustment.
paid it.
So you'd have to reimburse the
Yeah.
2.5%
Yep.
they've already paid since January 1st.
Yeah,
Yep.
I'm going to have to join, yeah. I can-
Correct, but you can do that adjustment.
Okay. Then I'd like to make that motion effective the same day that it passed for the union employees in 2023.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? All those in favor? Town managers report.
I had my report
Where'd you
right
put
in my-
that?
right in my- I was like, oh, where did I put it? So I have you guys know Mel Willie? He's in the, yeah, so super nice guy. Mel's come down a couple times, and he's walked in my office, and he goes, basically, what's up with all the one-way streets downtown? And I said I'd bring it forward. He's requested us to take a look at the traffic impact the one-way streets has directing traffic through the downtown. I know, Tom, you probably have more history on it.
I'm assuming he's talking about all the one-way streets around
Yeah.
Around
Well,
the town hall.
around the town hall.
is that-
and
Eleanor, Maple
The
Lodge.
state did that. The state
Yeah.
did and redid the whole downtown.
Jordan Lane, all that stuff,
Who's got
right?
a question about it?
Mel Willie
Who does?
is
Just a member of the public.
you know, if you want, I go back to when I grew up here, and it was crazy downtown because we had two-way traffic down through here, and it was very strange. But
Streets are wide enough
when
for
they
two-way
did the redesign and of the intersection where the lights are, and that's when they instituted the one-way traffic past the town hall and circling around. And they did that mostly, just because the traffic was building up. And like I said, before you used to come down Sullivan Street and then circle around where the monument is to get around across the bridge. So it was very confusing. And at that time, that's when they changed this actually used to be Bitt Street. I don't know why they changed it to Eleanor's Way. I live in Eleanor. But then in the neighborhoods also, like over on Maple Lodge in that area, is the problem they had was all the pass-through traffic and the people coming and cutting through the neighborhoods and heading up Wilson Street to get to the intersection at Cumberland Farms. So at that time, the people from those neighborhoods came down and requested that we do something, and that's when we made it. So it's mostly you can get out to Rochester Street, but to get back around, you're supposed to come all the way around the town. I think it works well, personally. When we had the big traffic study, several years ago, as I pointed out at that time, Berwick doesn't really have a traffic problem. It's Somersworth that has a traffic problem.
Yeah, I've been rarely ever stuck in Berwick, but I've been stuck in Somersworth plenty of times.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's when that traffic study that we did was the McBloom and whatever they are. I keep forgetting their names. But that's when they proposed putting a roundabout at the end of the bridge there, which I think would be absolutely crazy. And during that same proposal, they wanted to bring the traffic down Rochester Street, across Eleanor's Way, and then down Sullivan Street this way. And all you have to do is sit out here at any time and watch an 18-wheeler do the turns, and imagine two of them trying to pass each other going in opposite directions. So I made that point well known at the last Envision Berwick meeting I went to, so I won't go any further there. But that's some of the history of why we have one-way traffic around town.
Yeah, I don't have anything to add. With the Dig a Hole 1 stuff, or even preceding that with the Mullen McBroom, we looked at potentially two-way traffic on Sullivan. Don't really see a good reason for it. I don't think we'll see any major traffic changes, just kind of improving what we have. So that's the answer, Mel, and if you're watching, or I'm sure I'll see you again. Just to close the loop on our mini big dig outside there, that's now complete, thankfully. DEP will be picking up most of the tab. We just have to pay the deposit of $5,000.
Nice.
So overall, the project costs end up being $22,000, $22,542. But it only cost the town $5,000.
Didn't we budget
40?
Yeah, we budgeted a bunch.
Yeah, it could have been upwards of. It could have been upwards of 40.
Yeah.
I would like to extend our contract with Libby Scott for paving this year. We have not been receiving bids, or the only competitive bid for the past years is Libby Scott. By us extending the contract, we can get a head start a little bit earlier this year and can be locked into the same rates as the previous year.
So they're going to cover the previous rate from 22?
Yeah, for last year. Yeah.
What
yes.
roads are we redoing this year?
I can get the list to you.
Well, one of the things I think we really should do is, we redid a lot of roads several years ago, but we only did the base coat on it.
Yes.
And we haven't done the traveling surface on Pine Hill, Worcester Road, or Cemetery Road.
Worcester Road Worcester Road is good.
It's only got one coat on it,
Yeah.
though.
So it only lasted a couple of years.
Yeah, when I was driving home the other day, I noticed, I'm starting to see cracks along the edge of the pavement because we only have the one coat. So we're going to make sure that we get our top coats on.
I'll talk with Jody tomorrow about it.
So,
So I'll get the proposed. I mean, it should go hand in hand with the budget.
I know when they did Little River Road last year, they did the two coats. I did see that. So.
When you say get locked in for the same rate, are we talking a flat rate, or are we talking a rate per mile of
Per
pavement?
ton.
Or?
It's a per ton rate.
Per ton, yeah.
Okay.
Thanks, Mark.
Is that something you want us to approve tonight?
Yes.
And you've had bids out, just nobody's responded.
We
it's
haven't
been
gone
open
on.
now.
So I haven't. I'm basically asking to waive the bid requirement
process.
for this year due to lack of suppliers. Last year we went out. I was so new to the position, I just wanted to be sure, and we went up to bid, and it was. Just
I don't
me
even think it was
Scott.
close. I think it was one in,
Yeah.
Yeah, so.
And I think in years past, it was also, it was like you said, not competitive.
Yeah,
Where
that's
they
okay.
were the best price by a long
lot.
site.
Yeah.
Right, and it takes, the bid process moves it back. You want them to start as soon as possible.
Yeah, well, in the bid process, they can't even start the bid until July 1st when
Yep.
the calendar starts, and then usually it takes until about August to even get all the bids in.
Yeah.
They don't
Yep.
start paving until about October,
And then we're done with the year.
and,
then, they can't pay
you know,
again
and
till
then you know
spring.
if it's a
Yeah.
particularly bad year, you know they might not get everything done. So.
All right, so I'll make a motion to waive the bid process and go with Libby Scott.
I'll second it.
And just to be clear, this is only for the 2023-2024 season. We'll come back to the question again in the next.
Yeah, I think,
Bidding
but
season.
next, yeah, we'll do it next year for sure,
Okay.
just to see if there's any new
Yep.
guys
so.
out there.
Yeah. Any further discussion? All those in favor? All right.
Just want to recognize the rec department again for another. It just looked like a really nice event for the
Sweetheart dance?
Sweetheart Dance.
Yeah, it was pretty well attended.
Yeah, it was a lot of
Yeah.
fun until my daughter dropped on the floor during the only slow dance. There's a great picture. You can see me in the far back, standing over her, laying on the floor while everybody else is dancing so nicely. The joys of parenthood.
And just to note, there's a lot happening in town, and just encourage everyone to check out the BCM YouTube page. There's content posted pretty much every day. Town Facebook pages, and
And also thank you to Bad Wolf for providing food for that event as well. They did
Yeah.
a great job there too.
Yeah, they did a nice job.
that completes my report.
Excellent.
Any questions for James? All right, we have select board communications. I have a couple letters ad nauseum from Xfinity, Comcast, and essentially there's a minor price change, about 65 cents to one of the plans. Some channels are being taken off. A lot to go through. It's basically the FedEx package of notes on the subject, but I'll go through it in more detail and let you know if there's anything surprising or that needs to be addressed by the board. But I'm going to guess it's mostly.
Most of the changes of the channels are all channels that nobody around here would probably watch.
If you're a
anyway.
big fan of the Game Show Network, you might be out of luck. I'm going to tell you.
Not press your luck. Sorry.
All right. Approval of the accounts payable and payroll warrants.
Can I just ask a question? We have the finance director.
Yeah.
How come we have so many of these, like, single payrolls?
There has been a few errors recently. We had to do retro pay, what vacancies we did retro pay. There was 2 stipends from the tech teamsters that didn't get paid out, so we paid the 2
Oh.
stipends.
Yeah, do you want
Lisa, can you go to the
Oh, I
microphone,
can't hear
please?
you.
Sorry, I shouldn't hear.
This week there were 2 union members that received stipends, and their stipend wasn't in their paycheck. So we did a retro pay warrant for that. Last week there was a problem with the fire department. I was on vacation, and it didn't get caught that the full-time firefighters hadn't gotten paid, so there was a separate warrant for that. And there was still one that was left off, so Monday morning, we did another warrant for just that firefighter and cut a paper check for him so that he would get paid.
Okay.
And
Okay, that makes sense. I
I
just
don't remember
noticed there was like a
any
stack.
others.
Yeah, there's a couple
Yeah.
warrants here for less than $1,000.
Yeah.
So
That's all.
Okay, thank
Well,
you.
wait till you see
a
the
couple less than
payables.
100.
yeah, I saw it. Don't worry, I saw it. All right, we have payroll warrant number 50 dated January 26, 2023 in the amount of $82,264.88. We have payroll warrant number 51 from February 2nd, 2023 in the amount of $84,696.70. We have payroll warrant number 52 from February 9th, 2023 in the amount of $73,865.32. We have payroll warrant number 53 from February 9th, 2023 in the amount of $938.50. Payroll warrant number 54 from February 13th, 2023, in the amount of $746.02. And we have accounts payable warrant, payroll warrant number 56, 55, boy, did I have one here. 55 from February 16th, in the amount of $75,825.87. Payroll warrant number 56 from February 16th, 2023, in the amount of $88.81. And the accounts payable warrant number 57 from February 14th, 2023, in the amount of $1,230,928.36. 1230. I make a motion that we pay our bills.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion?
No.
All those in favor? Bills paid.
I almost asked you to reread like half of it.
Yeah. You can. I'm not afraid to read. I can do it. All right. New business. Liquor license for Hackmatack Farms.
We had Connor wasn't able to make it this evening, but we said we'd bring him forward, and if there are any issues, he can come to the next meeting. So this is at Hackmatack, and it's looking to, is it beer and
wine.
Yeah, beer and wine.
For the shows?
Yeah.
It's good for a year, right? Is that, are they annually renewing? Or is it just for the summer? NCP.
It says new license.
Yeah.
yeah, it's for beer, beer and wine.
I think it's because it says Hackmatack, but it says Bison Project LLC. Is that because they took over the Hackmatack? Because it was going to close.
Same.
Right,
Yeah.
I think
We
that's
came back.
It's the same family, you know.
Right,
to
no,
the
I-
grandson.
because they have stuff
Is
going
I
on.
think they're probably, you know, operating under that general, you know,
Right. That's why it's new.
thing. Yeah,
Okay.
they haven't had liquor there before.
no.
No, it's just the first time.
Yeah.
It's,
Oh, is it?
alcoholic.
Okay.
That's not
no,
true.
No, I thought they had beer one.
Yeah,
I
they had
thought they
beer
had malt there
'cause they
before.
had Quantified beer there
Yeah.
when they had the jazz thing. We went to
Well, they had a
one of those.
one day thing.
But that's,
Yeah,
so that's what I was wondering.
yeah,
Is
that
this,
was
so
like-
is
that was
this
like
going
a
to be
festival
an
thing.
annual
Right.
license for them? Is that versus just okay.
So this is for like all their shows
Yeah.
and things like that.
Okay.
Okay.
Alcoholic beverages will be sold from the concessions area and consumed within the theater, the porch, lobby, and grounds immediately outside the theater.
Okay.
And this is not for a singular event. This is
For a
a
whole year.
this is for a year filing. They have to resubmit.
Yeah, no, perfect. No, I just didn't see any dates on it for when it would run from. That's all. I make a motion to approve the liquor license for Hackmatack Farm.
I'll second it.
Any further discussion? All those in favor? Happy days. All right. Next we have the bids for the lift system.
So
Or the
contacted
pumps.
a bunch of companies, heard back from 3, and one said they don't install the type of lift. So we have 2, same model. It's a Severia Delta wheelchair. 101 mobility. It's $38,765. The quote that was included is for $40,265, but we saved $1,500 because Public Works already did the work. This model that was quoted has a 650-pound capacity compared to a model that is more expensive and has less capacity. So, based on the capacity and price, I recommend going with 101 mobility.
What time frame are we looking at for installation?
Lead time is 10 to 12 weeks.
10 to 12 weeks. So
Since you're
maybe
right in time
just
for the vote.
before the election?
Yeah.
Maybe just before then, or
Yeah.
it'll be cutting it close?
It's 12 weeks.
Yeah. Okay. Any questions about the lifts?
No, I think it's important that we get it
Yeah.
installed.
Okay, so
And I'll
Better-
contact them tomorrow.
It's been important for however long we've been dealing with
all right. So I guess
this
he needs a
issue.
motion. So I guess I'll make a motion that we go with 101 mobility for
Yep, I'll
the upgrade
second
of the
it.
lift.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Okay, now you can contact them.
Yeah,
tomorrow.
now James, call them.
Call them right now.
Yeah. I don't know if they're open, but figure it out.
Leave a message.
All right, James, masonry bigs?
We received no bids. This is for a group of projects. They're still on the town website, so if you or anyone at home are a qualified mason, please send me an email. So I think at this point, with no bids, that I'd probably just go out and try to.
What are you
looking
doing
for?
for masonry?
We need to seal the bricks around the back. I think we sealed the front with the moisture sealing up front.
On the building itself?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a couple, I think it's granite that are chipped away that need to be on the back here that need to be repaired. And there's a few other bricks that have just fallen off the building that need to be fixed.
You know, a lot of like pointing of the bricks and things like that. But
So what you're saying is if we don't get any bids, you're just going to get a individual contractor to handle the
I'll
job.
probably just go out and contact a few and see what I get for.
I was going to say, as far as the waterproofing, is contact somebody like the TC Hafford there, is they do all the basement waterproofing, but they also advertise now doing exterior waterproofing and things like that.
They're 4 months behind schedule.
Are they?
Yeah, we just hired them for a job, yep.
So if you go out and you find, instead of getting bids brought to you, if you just go out and find contractors, essentially if it's under $10,000, you can approve it yourself, right? If it's over that, you need to come back to the board and get us to approve it.
I think in this case, the fact that we've went out to bid that. Anything that I'll get, I'll bring back to the board anyways.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sounds good.
I think at that point, if is something over $10,000, I'll just bring it to the board to waive the bidding requirements due to lack of
Well,
suppliers.
if we've already gone through the bid once, there's no sense trying to keep the bidding requirements in place if it's not working.
Yeah.
So,
James, call Robert over in R&D Masonry over in North Berwick.
Okay,
Robert Tang. He's a good guy.
we'll do.
Houston.
We'll do.
All right. We have no quick claim deeds. No installments. Right. Didn't we have something? Let me see.
Yeah, it's under
It's in tab 19.
non-violence.
Yeah, there's one in tab 19.
Okay. All right. So, no abatements or supplementals. Second public comment. Yes.
I didn't know if you guys had any questions on that camera program that we did. I don't know if you saw it or if
I
you
did
guys
see
getting
it,
any
and-
complaints because I knew you guys.
I saw the initial policy, and then
Okay.
I saw the clarification. I didn't think the policy was confusing the first time I read it, but
Okay.
yeah, it seemed like a good policy to me to just
Okay.
get people to voluntarily
Question.
bring forward. Yes,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Yeah, are you talking about, when you're talking about businesses, right? So
No,
any local businesses?
even
Like, we have a ring on our
well,
door, and we have one on our shed, which, yeah, I
there's a
mean,
bit of confusion because a lot of people don't know what we're talking about. So maybe if you explain it from the start.
yeah, the
So-
camera program. We did an after action after our homicide, and one of the things that we had to do was go out and start looking for cameras because the person had left the scene. So one of the things I had learned at a training that they do camera programs like Old Orchard is where we got our information from. So even residents or even businesses, both, anybody that has a camera system, you can utilize it. Even the Ring camera system sometimes, like as I'd mentioned, the four fatals that we actually had them on camera systems, private camera systems, and 2 business camera systems. So they help with the investigation. That's all, but it's strictly voluntary. We contact them. We're trying to establish a list. What we do is contact them and say, hey, this happened in your area, like a theft or something like that. It happened around 2 o'clock in the morning. Can you look at your system and see if you see anything that might be of help? Because sometimes these guys will just park in somebody's driveway and then go do what they're doing and come back. So,
yeah, because mine, I can see the whole road.
and if they have something, if they want to give it to us, it's voluntary, strictly voluntary. We go out, take it off their system, and look at it. Everybody that we've actually come across prior to this has been really good about giving us the information anyway. But really what we're just doing is establishing, so if we have something that happens, we know we can go to this house, like on Knox Lane.
Yeah.
And
So it
we
doesn't
know they
matter
have a
what
camera
system you have.
It doesn't. It doesn't.
You just
I mean,
get on the
sometimes,
list and then you take a look.
Yeah.
If it's useful, it's good. If it's
Yeah.
not, it's not.
like, Cumberland Farms actually doesn't have a great system. We can't get the blades. I'm shocked, but we asked them about that actually when they redid it. They said, you need to have a better camera system. It would be nice.
Why is it you see all these things on TV of robbery suspects and stuff, and all the banks and all the convenience stores have terrible cameras, and they're so cheap.
The banks have the ATMs have systems where it's like it takes a picture every 3 seconds, and that's and it's black and white. And,
So
me, I have better cameras just pointed at my garage door, just making sure nobody shows up.
Yeah.
So
that's all it is. I didn't know if you guys were getting complaints, so I wanted to just bring that up.
I had one person ask me, and they said, "Well, that's for businesses only." And I thought that it was business and residential, but I said, I'm not sure, but I do believe it is. And I just said, you should call the police department and ask them, because I said, I don't know.
I think we've had like 25 or 30 people sign up already.
yeah, it is voluntary. They don't have control of your system. They can't access it remotely.
Right. Some people thought we were going to be watching their camera system, which is not the case at all.
mine would be very boring.
You're going to see a lot of deer walk by.
Yeah.
You'll see. No, it's a great policy to have. It's a great resource just in case something happens. If something happens and they call you later and you don't want to give up the footage, you still don't have to. It's
just
purely
is more
voluntary.
efficient for us. If
It's
we
just
know where to go, we can go. Like that incident itself, we needed to go quickly. So
Yeah, it was
It's more
it's just a
efficient for
resource
us.
for the police.
yeah.
One question. So if we catch something on there and I say, hey, I want to give that to the police because, look, I got whatever, you have your own tech department to get it off of my camera and keep it, right?
I got a couple good detectives.
Okay.
I won't do it, but they'll do
Me
it.
neither. I view it and I go, oh, I don't know what to do with it.
Yeah.
I believe it, but I'm just saying.
Here's a hard drive.
you-
Figure it out because I
Get
ain't.
some young guys.
Exactly. So it would be you, the police department, would do
Yeah, I
it.
mean, sometimes we actually video your video. They take their camera and
okay.
video your
Okay.
video. If they can't
I
figure
I
it out,
can
that's
take
what they
clips
do.
off my phone, so you can just like record it back onto your phone and
I
like,
can
make a
do
little
a
video.
I can do a photo from my phone, but I haven't been able to figure out how to do
the
anything
video.
with the video.
I can't help
That's a
with
whole
that.
different problem.
Yeah. No, I think it's a great idea.
I think it's a great idea as well. But
All right,
yes, thank you for bringing it up. We appreciate it. All right, so end of second public comment. We're going to move executive session for a minute, and we're going to go to other business, not agenda items. We have a municipal quitclaim deed without covenants.
Can't do that now, before we go into executive session,
Yeah.
and make that the last?
That's what he said.
Yeah, we're skipping
Yeah,
executive
we're
session.
skipping
We're going-
executive session and do
We're going to
this,
we have a municipal quitclaim deed without covenants. James or Patty, want to give me some info on this one?
Well, this has been one of the last land purchase installments that we'll ever do for this exact reason. It's been a long road, many hours, and attorney's fees that we actually will be recouping. And what this is they've actually, the attorney brought in the check this evening.
Is that who that was?
Yeah. So it grants the property back. We're asking you to sign it this evening, and we're going to hold on to this until the check clears, make sure everything's good before we give the property back. Did I miss anything?
How much is the check? Does it say here? Am I missing it?
Well, it was all the years of back taxes and attorney fees.
How much is the check?
$53,499.
All right. Any further questions? I would hear a motion.
I'll make a motion that we sign off on this municipal quitclaim deed without covenants for, what was it, 17 Cranberry Meadow Road, and to be held until the check clears.
Second that.
Any further discussion? All those in favor? There we go. All right. So, continuing to put the executive session on hold, we are going to go into recess while we do a review of budgets for several town departments. Do we need to have a vote to go into recess, or can I just declare it?
Yeah, sure.
I declare that we are in recess for budget review.
Good.
Thank you.
Just as a general summary of the budget right now, with everything proposed, or the wage increases and everything, including some fund offset, the difference to the tax rate is about a 1.43%. So that'll fluctuate depending on feedback over the next few meetings, but that just gives us a general overview. That doesn't count county or education.
What's the thoughts on the education? Have you heard anything?
Well, with education, I talked with the school district, and because of the way the valuations have increased, which does increase our ability to pay, however, because of the way it's a moving average, and we've been rapidly increasing in the area, we're scheduled to lose $1.4 million in education funding. And Berwick owns about 40% of that share. And if we project a 5% increase, that could be upwards of a 10%, or could be upwards of, I think worst case scenario, $900,000. But we'll couch that by saying that the school district has not started funding or budgeting.
Yeah, I haven't seen anything on their
And
plans yet.
they said that through the budget process, they can find some cost savings. That's kind of the reality of where we're at, is $1.4 million in less funding.
And that is because of the no longer getting money from the Fed, right? We got money from the Fed because
State.
From the state?
Yeah, this is from our state. Our town valuations have increased so high that
Right, we don't, qualify.
we get less money.
Funding.
Damn success. It always comes at a cost.
And it's for all three communities. And I can share, because I met with Audra and Sue and ran some numbers myself, and I have some of that to share. It's enlightening. And it's encouraging.
Can we lobby our state legislator to, increase the limit? Can we get that going?
Yeah, I think we've been trying that for about the last decade.
So you just sent us a nice new letter, thanking us for being on the board.
So with general expense, one of the things we're proposing this year is to move the PSAP. Right now, it's housed in police and fire, and they pay a proportion. Where this is a shared utility for police, fire, public works, water, and it's for 911 for the general community. Makes sense to move it to general expense.
This one?
It wasn't marked, I'm sorry.
On
To me, it doesn't make a big difference. It's more of just a bookkeeping change in terms of where it is. The increase in the 5%, where does that come from?
The cost for the PSAP, the 5%, that's just the year-to-year. Is it a contract?
Yeah.
Contractual.
Yeah, it's contract.
Yeah, we did, what, a 10-year contract with
I
them?
think it went out, I think it goes out to 2028, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I think we did a 10-year contract when we signed up with them.
Yeah.
What about? So yeah, I have no questions about the PSAP. I don't know if anybody else does.
Right now, a little bit of it comes out of the police budget, a little bit comes out of, fire budget. That's the way we've been working it, so it's easy to keep track of.
So really, either way, it's just moving it.
Yeah, it's just consolidating it and putting it in general as opposed to other places.
Yeah. The other, the biggest increase is legal fees. We have a couple ongoing things right now, and it's just, in my opinion, it's money well spent to make sure we have that in our budget to be able to use code questions, be able to get it early, and really that's early and accurate is the goal.
I don't have a problem with the increase. I mean, if we don't spend it, we don't spend it, so it doesn't make an overall difference. But it is a pretty big increase. Is a 50% increase? Do you think that's really necessary?
Well, with it's something we can we can revisit, because if that Linda Morth case is resolved, that's one of the big cost drivers legally.
Right.
So
if you look at the last couple of years, we've been doing 50,000, and is 22 we bumped right up against the 50,000, and then for this year, as of December 1st, we're $2,000 below.
Yeah, we're over.
So we're over it already.
Exceeded already.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So
No, again, I don't have a problem with the increase. I'm just asking the question that I feel like.
I think once the dust settles, we figure out, because I think one of the things we're going to do is credit some of that legal fees back into that item, so we'll be able to see with that credit where we're at. And
be able to carry over for the rest of the year, maybe.
Let's hope so.
And then just a decrease in streetlights. I think is that cost savings from the LED.
Yeah.
And the LED loan is paid off. So that's
Yes.
wonderful. So that's it for general expense. So town administration, this includes myself, Lisa, Cassidy, who's the HR generalist, and we have an accountant position we're hiring for right now. Also, in the contracted service line is where Betsy Olton, the HR consultant, is. And Betsy, she was involved through the HR generalist hiring. We unanimously picked Cassidy as the HR generalist, and Betsy recommended the system she's used for several communities is her as an HR consultant and having an HR generalist. And I think for the first year and a half, it'll be more intensive, where Betsy's reviewing our personnel policy, reviewing, helping with department head training. We've already done one department head training, reviewing policy, helping with performance management, and also she can also take a look at our wages, and that's some of the work we've already started.
So is she following under the contracted services? Is that
Yes.
That's what's causing that increase there?
Yep.
So that increase is basically saying that's our new HR department is the increase.
That's Betsy, and then the HR generalist is in the full-time wages.
Okay.
Under the full-time wages, you say a change of 3.76%. but yet back here,
7.5.
yeah, you listed as 7.5.
So we lose somebody?
So it's the year to years. It's just the wages are different compared to what we had budgeted last year.
For what you're budgeting for next year.
Yeah, and what we had budgeted last year included we had the deputy finance director and HR.
This fiscal year? You mean this?
Yeah,
fiscal
this
year?
current fiscal year, we had Lisa Hustis budgeted.
Got it.
But
So-
you're going to be adding an accountant.
Well, Cole was also employed, so we had Lisa and Cole. Lisa retired, and Cole moved away.
Right. But
So-
you replaced those two people with an accountant and an HR generalist.
Well, yes, but.
But their wages don't offset what was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know, that in general, I mean, a little bit there, but, so what you're saying is, if you increase this by 7.5%, it's only, based on the change of personnel, it's only going to be a 3.76 hit to the budget.
Yep, compared to what was budgeted for this
So
fiscal year.
everybody else gets a raise, and we don't have those people.
Right.
So
It's the same amount of full-time staff. It's just the wages are different.
everybody gets a raise except for us. Basically, that's how we save money this time.
We can put one in there.
No.
And while we're on that subject, you did you said Betsy did an analysis of 13 communities in the area. Can we get a copy of that analysis?
Absolutely.
The market?
There's a 33% increase in health insurance. Why is that?
We have not hired the accountant yet. If that person happens to have family health insurance, that could change. So, I mean, if the person doesn't have, if we hire before July 1st, or hire before we actually go to town meeting,
Yep.
or before the warrant's done, and that person doesn't have family, we can drop that down a little.
So you're projecting the max?
Right.
Okay. You have a increase to travel and training of 100%.
What?
Yep. Which I don't get, because it went from 16 to 10.
Oh, you know why? Because we normally had 20,000 in there this year, but I didn't know where to put Betsy, so I moved the budget from 10%. I mean, $10,000 of the travel training budget to contracted services. So it would have been a 0% increase, but because we needed money for Betsy, I
Reallocated.
yeah.
So in reality, it's no change, and
Right.
the contracted services,
Is-
that's accurate. Okay.
Right.
So how much is Betsy costing us?
She's $80 an hour, and it was more. We're trying to keep it affordable and sustainable, so we're trying to work on limiting it basically on a week basis to a limited number of hours.
Now that you
That doesn't answer your
have
question,
But now we have an HRG.
Right,
Which
so we
is-
should
which
be
is
able
the
to
point.
pull, I get seeing that you want to use her as a consultant, but you should be able to pull that back from the previous year, right?
That was the whole point of hiring an HRG.
Right.
I think that's what I was just trying to say. Like, I think we've already kind of started that. It was definitely more at the beginning, and we're trying to figure out how to do the projects, but make it financially viable.
But then, so we go up $20,000 in contracted services and up $10,000 in travel training.
Right. The travel training I get that should be a zero, but if she cost us about $11,496, am I reading that right? That's what she's cost us so far?
That was
2023 year to date? contracted services is about 11,000.
Yeah,
Okay, so if we're going to
that
pull
was
back,
a while ago.
what do you mean a while ago?
These are for
I can't-
like
I can't
12-1,
remember
I think, is what they're
yeah,
set at.
12-1.
Okay, all right, I see what you said. So not covering the last 2.5 months.
Right.
Okay, so it could have potentially gone up 15, what, 20,000?
Well, we've really scaled back on using Betsy at this.
Okay, that's what I'm saying.
And that's
Yes.
correct.
Okay,
Yeah,
so,
we saw a couple pretty high bills, and pretty much we're trying to go as a gauge of about 5 hours a week is kind of the goal. Where if it's like, if we know she's going to be in for department training,
It hasn't been that much though, right?
it hasn't. The past few weeks,
I went to 4 hours a week and I got 16K.
that's what I would just think.
And I think 4 is even excessive.
I mean, if
From an
one
HR
thing, if something
standpoint.
came up, I mean,
Especially if we have an HR generalist. on
Exactly.
staff.
right. I can see,
Otherwise,
maybe
it's gotta
that's
come from
going
somewhere
on
else.
Or helping on a specific project, but
Yeah.
your HR generalist has a background, right? And
she's new.
but she has a background in HR.
No,
No, she's completely new.
She doesn't have a background in HR?
no.
Then yeah, you want to keep the consultant.
And that was and again, so Betsy was involved from the very, very beginning of the hiring process, and we interviewed. Well, I guess I can't get in. That's
No,
not
I
common.
don't want to do that, but, okay. And that changes my perspective as far as, yeah.
But when it comes
I mean,
to,
I think it's good that we have a super experienced person that we can call upon and use, so, but not deal with the day-to-day modernity of the HR stuff, so.
But if, then she may have to for a while.
Yeah, no, I totally expect, that to be, like you said, like, front load it, and then it just gets less and less and less as we get it all stabilized.
yeah, this number doesn't necessarily have to be 30,000. I think we can take a look at.
Well, I mean, it would depend on what your personnel plan is. If you've brought someone on who doesn't have an HR background, what is your plan to bring them up to speed? I mean, are you going to send them to, because your travel, you said it's going to bounce back to zero because you
It's
moved
going to
over
be
to
it's going to
that.
be 20,000.
You're going to have to send this person to some training to get that background, and that's going to cost you some money. I mean, there are some great basic HR programs out there, but it's going to cost you a couple $1,000s to send them. And I'm all for supporting training and getting the person up to par. But then maybe some of the money should be going into training as opposed to consulting. Like you just said, it doesn't have to be 30,000. Well, maybe you put some more money into training.
Betsy did some one-on-one training with Cassidy, and Cassidy just went to Betsy's HR training that was in Portland.
Right, the municipal basic training, that was like a
Right.
half a day.
Do we have a copy of what that onboarding looks like
For
an HRG?
For what?
For our HRG? What does our onboarding look like? What's the plan to get her up to speed? Because we should have that.
Okay.
Like, there should
we
be a
can
plan
get
for that.
you.
Yeah, I mean,
Like, if we're talking HR, we should have a plan for HR.
yeah. That was a hefty, Betsy's thing was great. I sent someone who, it's kind of like a refresher, but Maine State HR, their conference is coming up in May. That's a whole week for someone who's brand new in HR. The SHRM, the national, has like 10 days. And that is someone, because the employment laws changed so,
Yeah.
I mean,
Real fast.
yeah. There should be some sort of a plan. We want to support this person, we don't want to, we want them to succeed. We want to see that benefit, so maybe we take some of that money from the consulting and move it to the training, because you're going to,
Take 5 out of the consulting increase, put it into the training increase
and look at the upcoming
calendar. Yeah.
Yeah. And James, I can send you the links for both the main HR and the national one.
absolutely.
The main one too. I'll give a plug. It is. I've
thorough.
sent some. It is really good. It's very thorough. So keeping it local is not bad either, because a lot of it is geared right towards me.
Mhm.
You know, you get to the national and it's all over the place.
So you said 25 and 25?
I was saying the request was for 30,000 for contracted.
Yeah.
We could make that
25.
25. Yeah.
Okay.
I could even look at. I mean, I could talk with Betsy and just see what the proposed like horizon for the next 18 months, or whether we should. I know she's been taking a look at our personnel policy. Is one of the first things we took a look at. Of just going through it and making a host of changes and.
And that's what we're finding, right? Like we've been going through things this year that we're finding like we just are very ambiguous or vague, and that's why we want to do this, because we have multiple departments we're growing as a town, and we need to be consistent, and we need to have that in there, and that's I think
You
training.
need a
the
good
onboard.
foundation, because as the town expands, you're going to need to add additional staff, and you want to make sure that you have solid policies in place.
I'm just glad to be diversifying the responsibilities and stuff like that, so that it's not all falling onto one or two people.
Correct.
Like I remember, it was a town up north or whatever. Like they didn't give their town clerk a vacation or whatever.
Yeah.
Oh, yes,
And she quit, and it turned out that she ran basically the entire town, and the town just came to a full stop because one person quit.
Close
And
the door.
Yeah, it's just like
Because they wouldn't give her, let her get.
yeah, they wouldn't give her like an extra week of vacation. Like we can't run the town without you. You can't go on vacation. She's like, okay, I quit. You can't run the town without me. It's like- I'm happy to be spreading the responsibility away from one or two people and
No, absolutely, but that's where we want to
getting
make sure
some more
those
fully trained,
policies
fully
are
qualified people to handle
solid,
this
Right.
stuff. Yeah.
so that
Lay the
that's what can
foundation,
happen.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else on town administration?
That's all I have.
All right. Then on to town hall.
Town Hall is tab 5. This one's pretty straightforward. Being able to cut 6,000 just because we haven't used that much postage.
Well, it's not 1996, so why would you?
You want to give it to Envision Burn? Sorry.
And then just electricity and water and sewers going up, and everything else is pretty flat.
Didn't we? Are we still looking at upgrading the lights in town hall to LED and stuff?
Those are done.
Those are done.
Yeah.
So have we seen a change in the electricity from that?
We did in the beginning, but I don't know what's going to happen with the new
The new rates.
Yeah.
So just think about what it could be had we not changed the LEDs.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
Speaking of LED, all the LED lighting loan is now paid off, so that's
awesome too.
that's why if you're looking at, we do have some sizable percentage increases. We do have, fortunately, there are some heading in the other direction of a negative $54,526. And speaking of other decreases, debt service. Are we done with? Are we also with town hall?
Yeah, that was pretty straightforward.
there's pretty much no changes there.
Where's debt
Debt
service?
service has gone down.
I'd like to see It's that. 12.
Yeah, number 12.
Tab 12. Thank you. Just the good news is that even though the fire station bond we paid off November 2044 and the other one we paid off in 2037, with each year the interest payment will go down, and it's can be pretty significant.
Something happened to me.
Did we have a
There's
big
something
decrease?
wrong with this.
Because we sold that fire station, so that went on the debt, right?
Yeah.
So that would have
So in this
all gone to principal.
case,
This is incorrect. There's something happened in the manager's request.
oh okay, yeah, it's just
And
not.
it's 1.6 in the long-term interest. That's wrong. We're gonna have to table the debt.
Yeah, we'll come back. We'll come back to it. There's some.
We need to fix your spreadsheets.
And let's get into applying the fire station payment. So we can't. So from what we've researched to this
Yes.
point, we cannot make a early payment. We can't make a prepayment.
We can't make an early payment.
So where's the money from the sale gone?
The money from, well, part of it went, I don't know if you were on the board yet, but in when we closed out the fire station bond, there was an overage.
Yeah.
And we, or the board, voted to take part of that money from the fire department reserve and pay off that extra amount of money to above and beyond
The
what
bond.
was
The
bond.
contract.
Right.
Yeah.
So that we had to repay the reserve.
So we had to repay the reserve, and there's still how much left?
161,606.
So that is in undesignated fund balance right now, which what we can do is when we write the article for the long-term debt, for the debt service, we'll put it like, we can do it the way that we do recreation, where we appropriate using that amount of money from the undesignated fund balance to reduce the amount taxed to the taxpayer.
Okay.
So it
And that'd just be,
Couldn't we move
that'd
Rick
just be
out of
for
the
1
undesignated
I mean,
year.
that's one way
Funding
to
to
do
its
it.
own
I don't know
department,
what James
that's
has
what I
in
was thinking.
mind.
That's
I mean,
what I was thinking.
does that cover 1 year worth of payments, or
Yeah, not quite.
okay? So it'd still be some left over that
Right.
we'd budget for. And yes, we
But at
did
least-
go over on the
correct.
fire station. Was it like
I
180,000?
think so.
Something like
Yeah.
that.
Point.
Yes, I can't remember.
Heated
We
floors or something?
epoxied the floor and
Yeah, it
some
was.
other things.
Yeah, it was a whole thing where and
Yeah.
winterizing or something. It was. There was a lot going on with that. I'm gonna tell you.
And considering what we have, we still got a good deal out of that building. You know, of the money we spent,
Cost and interest rates are just.
yeah, we beat it just in time.
So that's on the.
Right, so we'll come back to debt services.
We'll come back to that.
For the rest of it.
Yep.
Town clerk and general assistance. Number 3. Hello, town clerk.
Hello. The only thing I increased was wages, but James cut all those on me, so. I did ask for a part-time additional staff member. We're just seeing a big increase in traffic in town hall. And I think, I don't have my budget in front of me, I think I flatlined everything else except salary, but
You do.
the union people got what their contract states, and I got whatever department heads are getting.
The so the town hall is only open 4 days a week.
Mhm.
So is that what you think is like or it's just a general
You know,
increase?
there's a lot of people moving into this town.
Okay.
We're seeing a lot of people coming from Massachusetts, New Hampshire, coming into town to register their cars here now that they're here.
What are you seeing for a GA request increase? I'm sure that's through the roof lately.
GA has been crazy off the charts. With the increase in heating oil costs, increase in electrical costs, rent costs, we're seeing a lot of people in. We basically see more people in a month than we typically saw in a year. Good news is Val just went to training today, so she can start meeting with clients on her own, so we don't have to double team them anymore. We can split those appointments. But
And then what's a typical appointment run for time? Just out of curiosity, because that's a lot.
Literally
out of your day,
can
right?
be
Like,
45 minutes to
You have to go
5
over
hours.
every piece of
that, and that's what I mean. So that's.
Yeah.
I mean,
No,
there's
I
a
could
lot of
see
work
definitely
after
trying
you
to
meet
put
with the client.
somebody
that-
else in there to try to offset that.
Yeah, my plan is to train another staff member once I get Val up and going, and then I'm more comfortable training someone else too.
I can
But-
testify to, with my job, it's just like, in the past 3 months, I've gotten more you know, we're going to be getting general assistance, payments, things like that. You get to fill out these forms, and you know, then basically only in the last 3 months have I been getting a lot of those, and then prior I didn't get any. So it's definitely something that's increasing.
Yeah, the rate, sorry, I'm tired. The rental relief from the state stopped.
Yeah, that was in
So
August.
I'm getting people now with back payments of rent due, and they're in apartments that they can't afford. Their income doesn't exceed their rent, so it's a difficult situation.
So we have to take care of that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How long do they stay in the apartment they can't afford?
Well, we approve them if they qualify and stipulate if they come back the next 30 days, they have to do certain criteria, like apply for subsidized housing, apply to BRAP.
Get a job?
Get Section 8.
Some of them, yes, all of those things.
Some of them have jobs. They can't
Some of them have jobs.
A lot of them have jobs.
Some of them have, and some of them might even have seasonal jobs. You know,
Right.
So every case is different. It depends upon how much time.
Ago, and you can't afford it now.
And but it is true. Like I mean, a lot of people were taking advantage of rent relief for a year and a half, and then all of a sudden rent relief came to an end.
Yes.
And a lot of people did not save the money. They did not plan for it to just come to a halt. And then all of a sudden people are going, I was getting rent relief for a year. I'm like, well, now you don't. So you have to figure it out somehow because landlords will get their money.
We do get 70% reimbursement from the state.
Yeah.
And there's an act to hopefully increase that to 90%, which will help. And that goes back into the general fund.
Okay.
So we're looking at a 25%, 33% increase on general assistance.
So I got two things. Can I go back up?
Yeah,
See
go
what's
ahead.
up? So how many non-union employees do you have in your department?
Just me.
Just you?
Mhm.
Okay. What did, remind me, what did the union raise get during this last contract?
I think mine got
5%.
5.
Okay, all right. And then my second question is, you mentioned 3 different people, if I counted correctly, that you want to send to training, and because it's getting busier and you're going to have to then onboard another part-time
Just
person?
one other person for GA.
Oh, I thought there was 2 that for GA that you were...
No, Val's already done the training. She's got
Train
one
another
more,
one.
and I'd like to train Sandy.
Is $500 enough in your
training.
budget for training?
Is what I'm
Is that all I
definitely
have in there?
Yep. Travel
Yeah.
training, $500.
And I don't think that's going to cover...
What's in my membership?
Memberships, you have $340.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, probably not enough. These trainings are pretty cheap because we're, it's all MMA,
Yeah.
Maine welfare. We're all members, so they're
You still
usually
gotta pay
like
mileage, you
$40 a
You might have
whack.
to pay, the other thing to consider too with that is if you have to backfill. So if you send a person up to training that day, are you backfilling with that part-time person to cover those hours?
No,
You're not, you just,
No.
okay.
I also have a float that's in there that has been in there, and if we need lunch coverage, we do that. A lot of the trainings are still Zoom, so there's no travel involved.
Okay.
I would think though that if you're going to bring on a part-time
1,500.
person. Huh?
You thinking 1,500 for training?
I'm definitely thinking more than 500. I was thinking 1,000.
I was thinking 750 to 1,000. Just
What?
like what I wouldn't want to happen is to have you be like, I would want to send this person to training, but I've already spent my $500 this year, and now you have to, either
Well,
come back or rearrange things or agonize and just be like, well, after the next fiscal year, So just make sure you have all the resources you need to be
Right.
successful.
I wouldn't do that, but what did I spend last year in training?
232.
In 2022, your actual was 232.
Yeah, like
And
I said,
year
most
to
of
date
our
is
trainings are
363.
pretty inexpensive.
Yeah, you were at 363, I think, December
Okay.
1st.
So in 2022, you budgeted 1,000.
Mm-hmm.
You've only spent 232. You got 500 for next year.
This
I think-
year.
For this
For this year, and you
This year.
spent 363.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And we're halfway through the year.
Just so
You're
everybody
halfway, so
feels
halfway
happy.
is 6, 7. Yeah, I would definitely go at least $750 or $1,000.
Yeah, let's let's bump that up to at least $750. I think the taxpayer can bear $250 of
For more training.
hopeful, of getting fully trained staff. Just making sure that we're doing good.
Yeah, we are. We're all up to date with all of our trainings. And like I said, most of them are very inexpensive because we're members of all these MMA, Maine Welfare Directors Association, clerks. So we get, most of the trainings are $30,
Are most of the training on Zoom?
$40. Yeah.
Oh, so they're not driving to
Yeah.
to Augusta and you have to pay mileage and all
No.
that? Oh, that isn't too bad.
So that saved us quite a bit of money
Yeah,
because
that adds up.
most of them are in Augusta. So, or sometimes I offer to host and they'll do a training here, and they give us a break
Because
on
you
that
host
too.
it.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's good.
So, last couple of budget, BCM will be next week because Terry's recording us now. And then transfers, it makes sense to do it the 28th because that's tied to capital.
Okay.
So basically saying we're done with budget
Done
right
with
now?
budget review for now.
Well, no, we still got public agencies and miscellaneous.
For tonight.
Oh, but tonight.
Yeah. No, we're not done with budgets, period. No. Done with what we have on the
Wishful
agenda.
thinking.
So
what are we doing next week? Don't we have a meeting scheduled next week?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
But there was a
But-
couple things
No,
that
next
came
week.
up in that.
But James just said the 28th for like
In that
everything else. I
report?
just wanted to make sure.
Here's the updated.
Oh, thank you. Oh, perfect. Cool. Thank you.
Okay.
Did you want to keep that at 6:30 or do 6?
It's up to.
Up to you guys. I could do either or.
I could do 6 if I know that that's what the time you want to do. If you want to start earlier.
I have Girl Scouts, so let's do 6:30.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
6:30 works.
But before we close it out, the report that you sent us, so I had a couple of questions. So the one, oh yeah, I already asked you the one, if you could get us the market analysis
Sure.
for that. I'm just curious what the 13 communities are.
Absolutely. Yeah, happy to share the data.
And it says on here, page 3, it says Betsy is assisting the town on several projects, including review of our policies, assisting with performance management and department head training. So is that department leader evaluations?
Yeah, that performance management includes evaluations.
Okay, so that's,
And Betsy has a proposed, she has a different approach that we'll be working on implementing.
so that's a project she's working on going forward. She's working on the policies going forward and continued department head training. So you're going to be using her. Okay, that was the question. And then just more out of curiosity, it says the bond for payment of fire trucks and auditorium improvements will be paid 11/1/2037. Auditorium improvements?
We did a bond. We did a bond that did the auditorium windows, a fire truck, and the clock tower.
Right, I remember
So
that.
That's that bond.
Got it. So it's, okay, for some reason I had in my head, I thought I heard somewhere floors, and I'm like, are we doing the floor? Okay, nope, then
No,
that's
we did
fine.
redo the floor.
We redid that several years ago,
Yeah.
but that was through the
Yeah.
regular budget
Yeah.
process.
Okay, all right. And the next one is, I'll ask when it's for Terry, so I'll ask next week when she comes up.
So we're meeting next Tuesday at 6:30,
Yes.
and then the week. Now that week we also on Thursday we have what day is the workshop with the
It'll be that Thursday, the 23rd,
Yep.
for the gun range.
For the gun range, and then the following Tuesday we have a meeting, which is our regular scheduled meeting, but will also be our another budget meeting, and then March 7th we will either have all the budgets done, or we'll be meeting again. Right?
Correct, yep.
Aren't you having fun? So much fun.
So
I'm gonna go home and take a nap. All right, so I think that brings us to the end of the budget review. We can now come out of recess, re-enter our meeting, And as part of our meeting, we are going to enter executive session under Title 14056A for discussion of personnel. No decisions will be made in the executive session. So we will not be coming out of executive session and coming back to the public meeting. With that being said, does anybody have any other business, non-agenda items they want to bring to the table? All right. I move that we enter executive session under Title 14056A for the discussion of personnel.
I'll second that.
All those in favor? Here we go.
It's still on the air.
Oh, well, they'll get it off now.
Yeah.